This is 100% Canucks. John Shannon, soon to be joined by Landon Ferraro, and the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, Manny Malhotra, who is in a fascinating position this week and next with his job as Canucks coach and the father of one of the elite players soon to be drafted in the NHL in Buffalo a week Friday. It's one of those conflicts of parent versus coach, and it'll be fascinating to hear what Manny has to say about that, about his team. He's got a coaching staff to hire. He's got some players he has to deal with. So that is a daunting task between now and when hockey starts in September, albeit with a short training camp, only 4 exhibition games, and then a regular season that starts the last week of September. So it's John Shannon, Landon Ferraro, and the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, Manny Malhotra, on this edition of 100% Canucks.
NHL TV is now on DAZN. Hockey lives here.
Here we go.
Watch every game from every team. The best players in the world. And the coldest plays on ice. Watch up to 4 games at once for the ultimate NHL experience. Sign up now at DAZN.
Welcome back to 100% Canucks. John Shannon, Landon Ferraro, now joined by the new head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, Manny Malhotra. Okay, Manny, I want a day-by-day description of what you've done since you got hired.
Oh boy! Well, it starts with a lot of answering text messages and phone calls, and it's been a lot of phone work and meeting stuff.
I know you're a really focused guy, but at the same time, as those texts come through, and I saw the smile pop on your face there's had to be a ton of little moments you're sitting there like, this is pretty cool. Like, I got here.
Yes, absolutely. As I went through the process, just the understanding that 1 of 32 is pretty special. It is something that I've been striving for years. Had the help of so many people throughout that journey, and in answering those text messages, just realizing how many people that I've crossed paths with in my hockey journey, and how many people have been rooting for me. It's a pretty special thing to go through that initially, and then that wears off and you realize I got a lot of work to do.
When, as a player, did you realize that coaching could be in your future?
I think it was towards the latter part of my career. Probably by the time I got to San Jose, even in Vancouver a little bit. That was the point in my career where things really started to come together. And I started to understand the game more. And I think it was through playing for Todd McLellan, who was an incredible communicator and left very little or nothing at all in gray areas. And for me, when that light bulb went off and I realized it's how you communicate your message, it's how you teach the message, that's something that really resonated with me and I really enjoyed. So I started to take more notice of practice drills and how meetings were run and understanding systems. And it's something that I really enjoyed, but I think it was the last, 4 or 5 years of my career where I thought, it'd be a great opportunity to continue my life in hockey on this side of it.
So Manny Malhotra, the coach, would have told 18-year-old Manny Malhotra, the player, what when he got drafted by the Rangers?
You think but you have no idea. It was over the course of my career, you realize there's always somebody working harder. There's always somebody putting more into their craft. There's always somebody more focused on wanting to improve. And at 18, I felt like, I have a pretty good grasp of this and what I need to do. And then it wasn't until I started seeing veterans, like the Adam Graves, Brian Leach, Mike Richter, and then I go to Dallas and I see the way those guys practiced. I joke with people. I said I thought I knew what a practice looked like until I went to Dallas, and I legitimately thought they were trying to break each other's sticks with passes, how hard the passes were coming. I thought they were all joking around with each other, but I realized like, oh, that's how hard you have to pass the puck. That's how crisp it's supposed to look. And as I grew up and I got older, I realized that, there's always more you can do to improve your craft.
I would have told my 18-year-old self to buy 2 really good suitcases instead of buying 15 bad ones. But, like you talk about, the younger guys and your experience of there's like passing. I remember going from the American League to NHL, and that was something I noticed right away, just in the 4 blue lines, how hard everyone passed. So now you're looking at, you're going into your first year coaching in the NHL. How different is being a head coach in the American League and being a head coach of a startup rebuild? Because in a lot of ways it is similar.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of similarities in terms of when you talk about laying down foundational things and being able to start from the ground floor and build those habits and build those daily reminders of what the game's supposed to look like and how we want to execute and the habits we're supposed to have on the daily. And that's exactly what the American League is all about, is teaching young hockey players how to be professionals and teach them the transferable skills of, yes, you have to pass that harder. When it's time to execute with the puck, you're expected to make that play. It's, I tried, so, I gave it an effort to execute on certain plays, and the expectation is that you do it every single time.
And then, so when you're dealing with the younger guys, how much more important on a rebuild is like having your leadership group and being in constant communication with them? Because in a lot of ways, you're in charge, but they're almost kind of the teachers or the substitutes, like to make sure they have the same messaging that you do and, helping in that same direction.
It's a massive part of it is having the right people in the locker room. We as a coaching staff will implement a system. We'll have our expectations. We will demand whatever we will demand. But one thing that I learned at the American League level, especially, and it's obviously holds true at the National Hockey League level, is nothing's going to take hold and nothing's going to look the way it's supposed to until the players have bought into the messaging and the system and what it is that we want to build here. I always find the interviews at the end of the Stanley Cup final to be very boring and monotonous because the same things are said over and over every year. And the reason all those cliches are thrown out is because it's the truth. It's not until the players buy in and they are playing for one another and they're willing to go through a wall for each other. And all those things that you hear people say in those interviews, the most successful team at the end of the year is the team that has adopted all of those cliches and lived them on the daily.
To that point, I'm sure you watched the Stanley Cup final. Rod Brindamore's a former player like you. Rod Brindamore is a guy that has always been in great condition like you. What did you think you learned from Rod Brindamore and the Carolina Hurricanes that will help you behind the bench with the Canucks?
Well, having had Rod
if anything, Manny, I don't want to suppose that it was an educational series for you, but was there anything that Rod has done that you could glean from?
Yeah, going back to playing in Carolina, and he was starting as a coach at that point. The mentality of leading by example goes a long way. And not just to say that the work that he puts in the gym, but he has his philosophy, he has his beliefs, and he stayed true to them. And for years when it wasn't going their way and they couldn't break through that ceiling, they didn't turn the ship around and try something new and we're going to change this and we're going to try a different system. It almost seemed like he doubled down, and the things that they've been doing for 6, 7, now 8 years finally came to fruition for them. But just that mindset of staying with the process and believing in the process and leading by example were things that, again, looking at it from the outside, I don't know if that's exactly what happened. That's the way it seemed to me, was that they were sold on their conviction, and they believed in what they were doing, and the players were all in doing it.
What does it mean to you that Daniel and Henrik and Ryan are all part of this with you, because you guys have been around together as a group for a long time now?
Yeah. And I've said this in a number of interviews so far, is that it's not just what I want to do, it's who I want to do it with. And that being said, it's not, hey, we're all buddies and this is going to be really fun and we just get to hang out and do stuff. It's more in the sense that we are all so in line in the way we think the game, the way we feel players should be treated, the way we feel the energy of the room should be. So knowing that there is complete alignment with the guys above me and my bosses, again, it comes back to that mindset of leading by example. When you talk about energy and body language, when those three guys walk in a room, there's no bad days. There's a positive energy to them. They believe in what they believe in, again, with conviction, and that type of leadership is very contagious.
Like all four of you have talked a lot about how aligned you are and like the vision of what is ahead of you and how together you all are on it. But in saying that, two of the Sedins played the same game, but you and Ryan played different games. You do see the game in guys different ways. How fun have those discussions, because I imagine they've started now with the draft and then free agency coming, but how fun are those debates? Because there is such respect between you, but you can go through that together.
Yeah, and I think first and foremost, there's an understanding that it takes all kinds of players. It can't just be 22 skill guys. It can't just be 22 grinders. There are particular traits and characteristics that we're looking for in all players, but there's definitely an understanding that we need, guys that can finish around the net. We need guys that are willing to be really physical and block shots and kill penalties. And we need guys that are willing and capable of doing everything. So those conversations about players, obviously that's an RJ conversation in who he brings in, but again, that same alignment and belief in the types of people that we need to have in that locker room, from the veteran leadership to the young guys who are motivated and hungry to everybody that's going to be in that facility. There's going to be a very common characteristic with those people.
We had
where are you with your veteran? No, where are you with your veteran leadership?
Again, that's not a question for me. As of right now, we have the guys that are signed to contracts, and that is our group as of right now. Obviously, a lot of things change through the draft, through free agency, over the course of the summer, and right into training camp. There's going to be a lot of changes. So it's tough to say who that group is going to be.
We had RJ on here last week, and John asked him the question of, Manny's first year, he wins the Calder Cup, and last year was really tough for the organization in Abbotsford with everything that was going on with the parent club and guys getting moved up and a lot being hurt down there. But he said he was more impressed and proud of the work you did this past year. What did you learn through all of that mayhem, in a sense, of injuries, call-ups, and trying to still keep building to a team that you had battling all the way through?
It was a great lesson for myself and all of our staff, as we constantly preach energy and body language. And one thing that we say to the guys is that it's very easy to be a good teammate and be in a great mood when you're on a winning streak and the guys are getting their points and everything's going our way. It's real easy to be a good teammate and have that positive vibe to you. When things aren't going your way, what kind of a teammate are you? What kind of energy do you show up to the rink with? So for us, again, coming back to that leading by example mentality, finding the energy every day to come in and find the positives within our game and to continue to teach what we want the guys to do. It was hard to do, but it was a great lesson for us, because at the end of the day, the wins weren't stacking up and the record didn't reflect it, but we were proud of the progress that group made in terms of executing the things that we had asked them to throughout our practices throughout the course of the week, working on specific things and seeing those things in the game. Those are the milestones that we took out of the course of the year, was that, hey, they're trying, they're working hard, they're executing, they're doing what we were asking them to do. But we're not getting the results. So trying to keep that positive mindset of the group, and to their credit, they did it. That was a real positive that we took away from it.
You bring up body language and that energy, and John had just brought up Carolina and Brendamore, and something that was really easy to see was the bond he had with his guys celebrating. And I got to see firsthand you winning the Calder, and to be fair, like, really the exact same scenes happening between you and your players. You've talked a little bit about how it's important to be all in, but where does that passion come from? Because, I've played for a lot of coaches that have passion for coaching and trying to win, but there's other guys that it goes farther and you care about the person and that helping that side of it will help the player. Where does that come from for you?
Well, it's one of my favorite parts of coaching, is the fact that you're managing personalities and you need to get to know the person before you can start to coach the player. That's a philosophy that I've had since day one, and something that served me well. And quite frankly, I feel when I have a personal connection with a guy and I can have a 2-minute, 5-minute, water cooler conversation. Where'd you go to dinner last night? How's your wife doing? What do you guys do in the summertime? Just those interactions, and allowing the guys to know that I care about their person, allows them to open up and feel comfortable and confident being vulnerable to the group. And those emotions that you saw after the Calder Cup final game, it was genuine in that when you go through things with people, and it wasn't a tip to tail kind of year where we were dominant all year long and it just, everything happened for us. We went through some troubles and we had some down periods in the season, and I learned a lot about our players at that point and learned about what made them tick, how motivated they were, how much they cared about the game. And so when you see them realize their potential and reach their goals, it's so emotional. Not just you're obviously happy you win, but to see them put the work in and to have it come to fruition, it's a pretty special moment.
Where are you with analytics? I mean, you've talked about motivation, you've talked about relationships, but there's a science to this game now that seems to be playing a bigger and bigger part of the game.
I obviously value analytics. I see their place in the game. It gives you a good snapshot or an idea of trends within your game. For me, at the end of the day, though, it's the eye test. If it's working on the ice and we're doing the things we need to, and it's resulting in positive outcomes, then that's the determining factor for me. It's very difficult to say, spit out any random number you want and then have that shape your entire game plan or your practice schedule. It has to come down to the fundamentals of the game. You win your puck battles, you're in good position, you kill plays early. It'll always come back to the fundamentals of the game for me.
I'm curious, the concept of coaching for you, how much is in practices? How much coaching is during an actual game? If I had to ask you what percentage you could, we always talk, Manny, Scotty Bowman was a great bench boss. He was magnificent behind the bench during the game. Where do you put that value for your coaching style?
Well, having seen it, especially in Abbotsford and obviously for 8 years prior to that, you see different levels of how hard a practice is. And for me, you can only play as hard as you know how to. And for me, a lot of those learned habits are through practice and having confrontational and combative practices and having a high level of execution in practice. If you're not capable of doing those things in a practice scenario against your teammates, I find it very difficult to replicate that in an NHL hockey game or a professional hockey game with an opposition that doesn't want you to score and doesn't want to allow you to have the puck. So for me, a large part of how you look in games is based off of how you perform in practice. Obviously, there is in-game adjustments and making sure guys are aware of what needs to happen during the course of the game, managing who's playing well, who's not, who needs to get back out on the ice. So there is a component to that, but for me, it's largely how you practice is how you're going to be able to compete in a game.
Kind of on that thread, how do you, in this position of a start of a rebuild, how do you manage teaching and development to accountability, and you're in the NHL and you're trying to win games?
Well, obviously, I'm fully aware that the NHL is all about wins and losses, right? That's a big part of professional sports. But where we are and where we acknowledge that we are as a group is that we need to have a much more solid foundation of the way we play and instilling those habits of, again, it'll come back to the foundations of hockey, winning your board battles, being in the right position at the right time, defending like your life depends on it, are foundations of hockey. It'll never go away. You'll never see a winning team that gives up 5, 6, 7 goals a game and, again, can still pull out wins consistently. So, yes, there a big part for me is going to be instilling those transferable habits and those winning habits of just the execution of the basic game of hockey. Win your battles, execute with the puck, good positioning, and then the game will evolve from there.
How much discussion have you had with the guys that are on the roster now?
To be honest, I've only had a few interactions in Vancouver. Demmer was in the facility on that day. I've had a few text messages from the players and stuff. I've purposely not reached out at this point, just trying to number one, get my bearings a little bit here. It's been a lot coming at me. But just even more to the point, like it's summertime for them. They want to relax. They need to get their mind away from it and just on their training. But that time will come where I'll have some in-depth conversation with the guys and see exactly what they see is needed.
And the extension of that is that every fan in the Lower Mainland understands that a lot of the futures with what happens with Elias Pettersson and how you deal with a star player like that have you given, and how much thought have you given to discussing things with EP40?
Yeah, it's been on my mind. him with a lot, along with the other guys in the room. I feel as our job as a staff is to get the best out of the players and to find out what makes them tick. If I had a question just today, going back to when Petey started here, I was an assistant with the team, and just seeing how he had this youthful exuberance to him and this joy and this love for hockey. I feel that's a big part of why he was so successful early. Was everything was new and he was excited about it and he really enjoyed coming to the rink. That's going to be a big part for us is finding the joy for our group. And even just, I talked about it in the presser, the understanding that playing in the National Hockey League is a pretty good life. It's a pretty fun life. The fact that you get to walk into an NHL facility and call it a job is a pretty special title. So we're gonna. I keep talking about we're gonna grind. We're gonna work hard in practice. We're gonna do the things we need to do, but we're gonna do so with a smile on our face.
Not to keep harping on it, but just to emphasize, I went to camp on a PTO. I believe it was his second year, and the skates before the camp got started, little captain skates, the confidence and almost the ego that was coming out of Pettersson, right? Like we're playing 2-on-2 and he'd beat you 1-on-1 and then almost circle back to do it again. Right? It was unbelievable. Yeah. And when you talk about body language and all of that around the room and battling in practice, how do you set that up? Because I've been on a team that does it the right way, and that's where you become the best team, is battling and having that fun in practice, trying to somewhat embarrass your D-man buddy, but then smiling about it, right? That's where the competition comes in. How do you start to spark that again?
Well, again, coming back to practice habits and how you practice is how you're going to play. It's obviously we need to instill our systems package and our foundational pieces and stuff. A lot of that can be done in small area games. And you were a player, that if you see games on the board, you're all in. The guys get so amped up for those small area games. And for me, that develops a lot of that competitive nature. Me and you are going to go for a puck. If I come up with it, I have bragging rights. It's just that getting those competitive juices going through the course of practice to elevate that competitive nature in the guys. And that for me is where a lot of the fun comes from. Just being able to go off the ice knowing I got the better of you today and that I better be sharp tomorrow because you're coming right back after me. So for me, the practices set up a lot of that. I'm going to keep coming back to that, just establishing the foundational habits, instilling what compete looks like in our system, and setting up drills that will mimic those things and allow those things to come out naturally.
Before last season, you came on with us, about 8 months ago or so, and we were talking about training camp, and you were mentioning how much shorter it is now. And now you're going into your first camp, and it's even shorter than it was last year. How does that impact your plan going into it and trying to get the teaching moving as quick as you can?
And only 4 exhibition games.
Yeah. Looking at the schedule, it is pretty daunting from that standpoint, and trying to instill a systems package in 2 days, and then you're right into an exhibition game. It comes at you pretty fast. And talked about this for years for players. I don't know why they call it training camp still. You're not training for anything. You have to arrive there ready to go. So that's going to be our focus, is that once we arrive there, instill a systems package as quick as possible, talk about our foundational pieces, what makes us go, and then we're off and running. So it does pose a challenge. It will require us to be extremely organized and extremely efficient within the skates that we have to make sure that the guys feel confident enough in our systems going into game 1 of that exhibition season. And as you said, now that there's only 4 of them, that heightens the importance of performance in camp, those couple days you get. And you won't see so many, just giving guys a gimme exhibition game just for the sake of it, though there's going to be a lot more importance put on the performance within those 4 games.
You mentioned about getting a lot of texts when you got the job. 95% of them were guys looking for jobs. How close are you to appointing a staff?
Closer than I was last week.
That's good.
Yeah, there's been just the interview process itself. There's a lot of meetings, a lot of video calls, and just sifting through the resumes and those calls. It takes its time. One thing that we continue to talk about, and RJ did the same thing, is giving your due diligence to the process. And it's not something that I want to rush into. Obviously, these are very big decisions for myself and the organization. So I want to make sure that we have the right people that can help what it is we're trying to do here.
Do you feel a need to have a veteran coach on your staff, someone who has, Manny, perhaps been through the wars?
I've gone through the full spectrum of, young and up and coming guy to established veteran guy and everything in between. Mm-hmm. And for me, it comes down to the ability to deliver the message and teach the message. And again, having the right energy to be able to teach and have that good energy and body language to the rink every day. So for me, there's not as much of a premium of, okay, I have to have this kind of a guy and I have to have this kind of a guy. It'll come down to the characteristics. And also a big part for me is just the relationship. We spend a lot of time together as coaches. I got to make sure that we jive as a group and we're on the same page, as opposed to just getting this guy because he fits this mold. If we don't gel and we don't come together as a staff, it's noticeable.
Say you get to the end of exhibition, you're standing in front of the media doing your little end of training camp presser, and it's been a successful camp. What does that look like to you? And what are some of the things you'd love to hear from your players leaving camp?
A successful camp for me is it looks better than it did when we started. And I'll keep talking about these points. Like, my main goal right now is a good day one of camp. I want it to be sharp. I want it to be crisp. I want the execution to be good. I want the energy to be high. I want it to be combative. I want it to be competitive. And as far as the players, I expect and I would hope that they come ready and engaged right off the hop, because as we said, we got 2 days and it's right in the game. So there's going to be some very important decisions made within 2 practices. But I would hope that they acknowledge how sharp practice is going to be, how much work goes into it. And I really hope they're not surprised with the workload that we have come day one.
Are you ready for the Vancouver media?
Are there a lot of them?
You know better than we do.
Yeah, no, I again, something that you understand in a Canadian market, that comes part and parcel with the job. So yeah, I'm aware of it.
Oh, come on, Manny. We all know that's the thing you love most.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I'll be honest, Manny. I watched the interview we did with you when you were in Abbotsford. You've smiled a lot more today than you did last year.
Okay.
which tells me that you're preparing yourself for this thing. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So we're taping this. We're taping this on Thursday, June the 18th. 8 days from now will be one of the greatest days of your life, and it really won't be anything about you. When do you stop being the coach of the Vancouver Canucks next week and start being Caleb's dad?
I think on Thursday when we go down there, and I had a great conversation with RJ. I said, when I go to Buffalo, I'm there in the capacity as Caleb's dad. That's it. And he was fully on board. There's no obligation to the Vancouver Canucks to do anything in Buffalo other than, obviously represent the Canucks well in terms of how I conduct myself. But he was the first one to say, soak it all in. You can be a dad on that day and just enjoy the experience with the family. You
were 7th overall. There's a great chance that Caleb's going to be higher than that. You're going to lose some bragging rights. Very aware of that. Very aware of that.
I'm sure he hasn't brought it up.
No, not in the least. No, I hope for that. For me, that's the goal as a parent. You want your kids to do better than you, be more successful, play longer, all those things. I'm rooting for him to beat me for sure.
Can you coach
whether
him?
He goes, whether he goes, early or somehow goes all the way through and he's a free agent signing a contract, right? Like the biggest thing, what are you most proud of watching him through all of this?
I will say, obviously having gone through it myself and having an understanding of what it takes, watching his conviction over the last couple of years from, I really like hockey, I want to make a go of this, to understanding what actually goes into it and making those hard decisions at 15 to go to the BCHL and adapting and doing well, coming to the OHL, adapting and doing well, but seeing the work that he's put in and have it come to fruition and see his evolution and having this, I want to be a pro hockey player mindset. That's what's made me the most proud, is like he's grinding and he's putting in the work and it's on him. I'm completely hands off now. He gets himself to the gym, organizes his skates. So just seeing that in action makes me really proud, knowing that he's focused on his goal.
I will repeat the question. Can you coach him?
I have before. I believe I can. Yes. I fully understand the positives and negatives to even the aesthetics of it. But no, we early on in our father-son relationship, decided that I'm dad first. When it comes to hockey, I'll be your coach, but the two will never cross paths. So when we're at the rink, I'm coach. When we're home, I'm dad, and it's served us well so far.
When he was younger and you were coaching him, there was never you took him off the power play and when you got home, he just randomly was mowing the lawn for you?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No, we're very similar in that regards. We butted heads early, and then we made the decision. We came up with that rule. The moment he gets out of the car, I'm coach. The moment he gets back in the car, I'm dad. And then outside of that, it's worked really well for us. And the only times we talk about hockey is when he wants to bring it up.
Well, I tell you what, as we get older, we circle dates and we circle times of our lives as parents and as people within careers in the hockey world and other things. And May and June of 2026 are going to be circled in the Malhotra family for a long time when you think of you being appointed as head coach of the Canucks and Caleb being in the top 5 draft picks of the draft in Buffalo. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Manny Malhotra on this edition of 100% Canucks. Back after this.
With the NHL app, you can listen to every NHL game right from your phone. And with home and away broadcast feeds, you choose your way to listen.
And he scores!
Whether you're at work, at the gym, or stuck in traffic, the NHL app puts you right in the action all season long. Every team, every game, everywhere you go. Download the NHL app and never miss a moment.
Welcome back, 100% Canucks. So, Len, I was not joking with Manny when I said he smiled more today than his first interview that we did with him when he was coaching Abbotsford last year. He was uptight last year.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things have changed since then. I think
he's got a bigger job and there's more pressure. I was actually going to be a little concerned he may not smile at all today.
Yeah, but see, I think you're forgetting one of the biggest things here. His son is about a week away from being a top 5 draft pick and probably pretty quickly signing a contract. I bet he's got the same thought my dad did when I signed. He came to my game in Everett and he handed me, I thought he was coming in for a big hug after. Like, I just signed my deal and he handed me my phone bill. And he said, I've been waiting a long time to do this.
I'm wondering what kind of wager there is in the Malhotra family if Caleb does in fact go. And we, for all intents and purposes, if he goes below 5, it'll be a scandal.
It would be crazy to see him.
Well, but 5 seems, it's amazing how kids get better with all of these mock drafts, and they haven't played a game in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
and for all season long, Caleb was around 5, and 2 weeks ago he was up to 3. So how does that work?
I mean, for him, I feel like it was the OHL playoffs that moved his name into that next level. Mm-hmm. When he was, he's a draft eligible age. And he wasn't just another good piece on a good team. He was kind of the piece and someone they've really heavily relied on and provided good minutes and continued to produce. So when you can do that, especially in your draft eligible age, in a good league at playoff time, playoff games matter more. Like it shows so much more of what, especially a young kid, is made of and able to push through. I remember playing my first games of playoffs in junior, and like what a shock it was. This was years ago, and there's some bigger guys still playing, but like you get to playoffs and you couldn't get to the front of the net. I was a small guy. It was so much harder. And so now looking at these young kids doing that and then producing at that time, the respect I have for them to be able to mentally handle that, like that's what pushes guys higher.
Well, and even in just listening to what Braden Coots told us a couple of days ago about the stress and strain of your draft year and playoffs, combine, prospects tournament. I mean, all the camp. I mean, you really don't have time to breathe all summer long, and the challenge then of going to camp. So it's and let's face it. I think when you look at the discussion points across the board of McKenna, Stenmark, Malhotra. Caleb has been almost discussed as much of those two guys now.
Well, because he is that center. He's a good sized center that can skate and can drive plays. Like those are really hard to come by. And just one more thing to add on to the draft year and how hard it is. It's so long. You don't mentally get a break through it. And that was my experience in 2009. Social media wasn't a thing yet. Like if for me, there was all the things you normally have to deal with and scouts being in the building and all of this stuff. But if I wanted to see a draft ranking where you're sitting, like I had to go find the hockey news or a random website to go search that. Now, like it's tethered to them with their phone 24/7. They see everything. There's so much more that I was still able to get away from, right? Like I'd leave the rink. My cell phone was a flip phone, right? I'd go to the golf course. You wouldn't think of anything. Now everyone's phone's sitting there. They're probably, they're on the 6th tee and they look at their phone. They got an alert that the newest NHL.com rankings come out. right? Like it's always there.
Oh, it's relentless. Yeah, there's no question. So, Manny could be impressive as the coach of the Canucks. He at this point, he's undefeated, saying the right things. The one thing I noticed in our discussion when I asked him about veteran leadership, things are going to change there, aren't they? There's a change a-coming. And it's almost one of the reasons why you don't contact too many guys in the off season.
Well, because what are you going to say, right? Like all you're going to be doing is making a lot of promises that you don't know that you can keep.
Right.
And, like the guys that have been in the league and they're veterans and the names that are being discussed, they're not oblivious to it. They understand what's going on. Some of them might be way more open and excited for the opportunity to be moved to a better team. Some might want to be here, but you have to navigate that. And if you're taking the emotion out of it of the guys, which you have to if you're in that management seat, those are assets that you need to monetize. If you don't, you're missing so many extra draft picks, extra chances of finding players that are going to be part of this core moving forward and make up the team 5-8 years down the line. So you look at it and there's pieces that are just too good to be here at this point.
It will be fascinating to see, particularly between now and draft time, if Ryan is able to move some bodies, create some cap space, more cap space, and then we get into free agency in July and see what the Canucks are able to do there, because it certainly sounds like the roster that was part of the season this year will not be part of it next year as this team turns the aircraft carrier around in the ocean, because it's like turning an aircraft carrier around when you're doing a rebuild in the National Hockey League.
But let's hope that it's more like the aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean and not Austin Powers trying to turn his car, the little scooter around.
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel.
Good for you. Good for you. All right, Landon, thanks for this. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you as well.
Thanks for listening and watching this edition with Manny Malhotra of 100% Canucks.